Hello, everyone. In this final segment of my lecture on Bangladesh, creating the history of 1971, I will briefly discuss the history of the liberation war of Bangladesh through the images that I collected from the Bangladesh Liberation War Museum, from my extended family who were Mukti Jodha or freedom fighters during the Liberation War period in 1971, and some images I collected through the online resources. As we know the history of Bangladesh, how the then East Pakistan was exploited by the then West Pakistani government, and they declared that Urdu will be the state language of East Pakistan, though the majority of people of the then East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, are Bengali speaking people. So this image shows the Bengali language movement in 1952, where the Bengalis protested against the imposition of a foreign language, which was Urdu, in their territory. This is another image from the 21st February 1954, where the students, university students, rallied on the roads of Dhaka. It was led by the student leader Ataur Rahman Khan and Wali Ahmed. It was again a protest on the language Urdu that cannot be imposed on the Bangladeshis, the Bengali speaking people, because their mother tongue is Bengali. This image shows the Bengali language movement, and the poster behind this figure, the gentleman, is written Rashtra Bhasha Bangla Chai. State language has to be Bengali. This is the image of Bangla Bondhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and this is his famous 7th March 1971 speech. UNESCO recognizes Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's 7th March 1971 speech. And the 7th March speech of Bangla Bondhu was a speech given by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, on 7th March 1971 at the Ramna Race Course in Dhaka to a gathering of over 2 million people. In his speech, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman proclaimed, "This time the struggle is for our freedom." And I remember we were in Dhaka at the time, and my father and my two older brother, they wore their walking shoes and a cap on their head, and they went to the 7th March speech event delivered by Bangla Bondhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So it was a big event in every family of the then East Pakistan. This is the image of Lieutenant General Zia Rahman. He was the president of Bangladesh from 21st April 1977 to 30th May 1981. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Ziaur Rahman were considered the first among the heroes of 1971. Each group, Awami League and Bangladesh Nationalist Party, uphold their leaders as the undisputed and true hero of the war. The Awami League leader was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party leader was Ziaur Rahman. So, this image shows Bangladesh won its independence, got its victory on 16th December 1971. So, it's the celebration of victory on the cover page of the Time magazine. This is the image from the Liberation War Museum, Mukti Juddho Jadughar in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So these are the collection of the rifles, semi-automatic weapons that was used by the freedom fighters of Bangladesh during the Liberation War in 1971. This is the image given to me by my auntie. She was a freedom fighter in 1971. Her name is Farida Kanamsaki, and with her was her younger sister Shireen Jahan Dilruba. They went to India for training as a freedom fighter. So they were university students at the time, and my auntie can be seen from the right hand side. She's the second one, and next to her, the third person is her younger sister. Auntie shared her story and experience on the night of 25th December 1971. She used to live in a dormitory, in a dorm, a hostel in Dhaka. So she was a Dhaka University student. So she shared her story and experience, the first-hand experience of the night of 25th March 1971. So I'm reading just a part of her interview. She says, "It was the night of 25th March. We all ran past behind the dining hall and went to Provost House, knocking on her door. She did not open the door. A house tutor, Madame, saw us crying and came to help. Her house was attached to the Provost's house, and it looked like one house. Madame moved us to a storeroom and locked it from the outside. She told us to keep quiet. We could hear the approaching military footsteps." My auntie Farida Kanamsaki continued, "The Pakistani army thought all the girls were present in the Rokia hall. The Biharis were with them. The Biharis probably gave them the information. The girls of the Chhatro League, that is, the students' organization, used to go for parades with dummy guns in preparation for a possible attack by the Pakistani regime, who were not willing to hand over power to the Awami League. After the parade, the girls would come to the dorm in the noon and afternoon for a wash, then go to the canteen for refreshment, and then go home. There were about 150 to 200 girls. And so the Pakistani army with the Biharis thought that the girls lived in the dorm. About the atrocities committed by the Pakistani army against the Bangladeshi people, and also the atrocities committed by the Razakars, who were the Bengalis, but who were not for their fellow Bengali citizens. They were collaborators and they helped the Pakistani military personnel against the Bengalis. Farida Kanamsaki, my auntie, recalled, "The Razakars made our life hell. They gathered information about freedom fighters' movement. One day, we had to stay under the water in the canal with just nose over the water. The fear of the army coming was gripping us, and the Razakars were causing lots of problem, almost like torturing." So my auntie Farida Kanamsaki and her sister, they went to Noakhali, which is their parents' residence and maternal grandparents' residence. So from there, they moved to India, took training under Major Sarma and Major K.V. Singh of the Indian Army, and returned to Noakhali and conducted their action against the enemy. So this picture is titled "The Liberation War Museum, The True Accounts of Our War." And in this image, the woman in front, the one that is on the left, she is my auntie or my mommy, my uncle's wife, the Mukti Juddha, the freedom fighter. They're carrying on their parade with the mission to free the country from the enemy. In this newspaper clipping, Farida Kanamsaki, the freedom fighter, again, of course, my auntie, who gave a vivid description how they confronted the Pakistani army and how she threw a grenade to disperse them. So she was in action against the Pakistani army in Noakhali. That's what she shared in this reporting. So my auntie, Mrs. Farida Kanamsaki, is now the Member of Parliament under the current government of Sheikh Hasina, who is the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Farida Kanamsaki is the Member of Parliament of reserve seat for Noakhali. My uncle, my mother's brother, or in Bengali we say Mama, his name is Mahmudur Rahman Belayat. He was also a university student during the liberation time in 1971, and my uncle Belayat Mama, as we call him, he shared his experience during the Pakistani military attack in the university dorm in the night of 25th March 1971. My uncle, Mr. Belayat, he recalled Salimullah Muslim Hall, SM Hall, room 156. I shared the room with another student. I was involved in student politics, freedom movement, Andolan, and even with the Bangla Bondhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's 7th March speech. We went to meet Bangla Bondhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. We were told to be careful. The Pakistani army may attack any time. My uncle Belayat recalled, on the night of 25th March, the former Chhatra League leader, the student leader, assigned me the responsibility to collect the first aid boxes from the Red Cross office. They arranged a mini bus. My job was to go to the Red Cross office and collect first aid boxes. Once I collected the first aid boxes, I should take them to the Polashi Barak in Dhaka, where they arranged 3 rooms. There were other people to help me. I had not eaten all day. Then at about 11:15 p.m., 25th March, while we were eating bread, 2 guys came running, telling us that the Pakistani army is already here on the north side of the new market. My army, the Pakistani army, has created blockades all over the place. We crossed the barricades and walked towards the new market. We saw military trucks, lot of them, without headlights, so no one could clearly see all the trucks, one behind the other in a long row. They were targeting the students. We jumped over the wall and moved into Azimpur colony. We removed our shirts to be undetected. At the same time, they started firing like rain. We were not sure if they targeted us. They targeted the East Pakistan Rifles headquarters because most of them were Bangladeshis, East Pakistan born. Then my uncle shared some more of his observation. He said that we 4 students moved to my elder sister's house in Azimpur. We stayed at Azimpur for a couple of days. On 27th March, the Pakistani army withdrew their curfew. We went to SM Hall. It was all locked up. We went to the Jahurul Haq Hall, another dormitory. We saw many dead bodies. Then we went to Jagannath Hall. We saw many dead bodies and some 2 or 3 dug up holes. Most teachers and students at Jagannath Hall were Hindus. Then their bodies were put into the holes. We walked towards the press club. On the east side of the High Court, we saw a rickshaw puller's dead body on his rickshaw. This became one of the famous photos for the media. And so my uncle shared more of his experience. Then finally, he managed to go to Noakhali, and where it's my grandparents' place, where it is his parents' residence. And then from there, he moved to India. And in India, Mr. Belayat received military training in Dehradun. In 1971, he became the district commander of Mujib Bahini, or Bangladesh Liberation Force, and he was in charge of Greater Noakhali, Feni, and Lokhipur, and Greater Dhaka and Kumilla. But he said he was mostly assigned for Noakhali, the Greater Noakhali. This image is the sign of happiness, of joy, of victory. On 16 December 1971, the Pakistani army surrendered to the joint forces of Bangladesh and India. Bangladesh was finally liberated. In this picture, we can see Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi of Pakistan signing the instrument of surrender on 16th March 1971. Finally, I would like to share my observation during the Bangladesh Liberation War from 26th March 1971 to 16th December 1971. I was a high school girl. I was a student of grade 9 at Vikarnisa Noon School in Dhaka, and I observed the genocide that was being carried on during that period, particularly in my neighborhood, in my in the residential area where my parents lived, where there was Pakistani camps, there was torture cell, there were the Pakistani military booth on the road that checked our cars daily whenever I used to go to school, and in a way we can say we were under their surveillance. They sometimes used to come more or less on a regular basis to use our telephone, perhaps to check on us if we are the miscreants, as they termed the freedom fighters or the Mukti Jodha. So I have written a paper which I am hoping to publish very soon in a journal, where I have discussed my observation and how this period of genocide committed by the Pakistani military affected my family, my extended family, and including myself. Particularly, there was a house in our neighborhood where the Pakistani army used it as a torture cell, and they used to bring the freedom fighters or any people suspected of freedom fighters or intellectuals, and they used to torture them. Sometimes they uh, beat them, and they beat them to death. So that has been an awful, horrible experience, frightening period of 9 months. So, as I said, there were people who raised awareness of the genocide committed in Bangladesh by the Pakistani military. For example, the Pakistani journalist Mascarenhas, he reported in the Sunday Times of UK about the genocide being committed in Bangladesh by the Pakistani army. Then there was this global awareness raised by people. For example, the US Senator Edward Kennedy, who during the War of Liberation time in August 1971 visited the refugee camps and hospitals in Calcutta, India. And of course, the refugee camps were people of Bangladesh. The refugees and asylum seekers were in the refugee camps in Calcutta. Upon his return, he issued a report to the Senate Judiciary Committee on Refugees. The report, Crisis in South Asia, stated that it was one of the most appalling tides of human misery in modern times. He was appalled by the Pakistani army's systematic campaign of terror and its genocidal consequences. Kennedy's effort to raise global awareness was successful. Finally, the US Congress pushed through a bill to ban arms sales to Pakistan. In 2009, I went to the Harvard University as a visiting fellow, and I was a visiting fellow at Harvard University from 2009 to 2011 for my research work on understanding young Americans' Muslims' identity. So when I was there, Edward Kennedy died. So when I heard the news of Edward Kennedy, US Senator Edward Kennedy, I wrote a letter to the New York Times and paid him tribute. I was very touched by his humanitarian work, by his compassion towards the people of Bangladesh, and I wrote a letter paying him tribute, and I was very happy that it was published. So, this was the letter that was published in the New York Times. So, let me read the letter. To the editor, Senator Edward M. Kennedy was a champion of social justice. He was a voice for the voiceless and a powerful force on behalf of the vulnerable. I remember when I was a young girl and my country of origin, Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, was experiencing genocide committed by the Pakistani, then West Pakistan Army. The American government remained silent because it was an ally of Pakistan. But Senator Kennedy stood up and helped mobilize international support for the Bangladeshis' liberation war in 1971. Now that I am here in Massachusetts for a short period from Australia, I feel deeply privileged that I am in his state and have been able to pay tribute to a great man. Nahid Afroz Kabir, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 26th August 2009. Thank you.